This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning to all of our viewers around the world. We have seen this beautiful scene with not only the moon, but we've got some beautiful zebra in the foreground. And this is our live safari from the very own African live bush. So these zebras seem to be starting their day. Looks like they've all got their heads up. They're facing into the wind, which is probably the movement of the rest of the herd this morning. It's really cool to see the moon in the background. So we've got a couple of zebra there. We've got a couple of zebra back there. My name is Eric. Like I said, we're live from and beyond Ngala, and behind camera as always is Owen. And we've got a beautiful little young, or a couple of young zebra actually, that are here at the moment, and they've been quite obliging, and that's why I think they're just starting to get up and move around. And so they must have huddled in a very, very tight-knit group last night. They probably would have felt a little bit exposed with all of this wind. I mean, it hinders their ability to pick up direction of the senses at this, or the scents that they're smelling, so, and also the noises that they're hearing. And I'm sure they're pretty relieved that the whole group made it out alive last night. With this wind, it's really good hunting conditions for the predators, especially the nocturnal ones like the lions and leopards. So I'm sure these zebras are relieved to see the daybreak, and it looks like they're starting their day feeding. Beautiful scenes this morning with the moon. It's really cool. I mean, it would have been pretty bright last night, which I suppose would have given the zebras maybe a slight upper hand, especially because their eyesight is so good. And just look at how at the bottom left hand side of the moon you can see it's starting to fade, and from that point it's just going to become smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually in about 26-27 days it's going to be completely gone, and then we'll have a new moon to wait for. So our plan for the morning, we ended off really nicely last night with those 3 lions, and so we'd like to try and retrace their steps and see if we can find the rest of the pride. So we'll be going down towards one of the water holes in the eastern part of the reserve and see if those lions might have been moving around there last night. We thought we would come out into a couple of these open areas just to see what general game there is to offer, and these zebras are literally the first mammals that we've seen this morning. And from here what we'll do is head down towards the riverbed, maybe drive the river before we get towards the water hole. Sheduli, the zebras will lie down when they are sleeping. They might not do it for an extended period of time. Out of this whole group, the ones that will lie down the most would be the youngsters. So they'll rest whilst the parents keep guard. And if we actually look at the inside of the zebra's front leg, there is a patch of bare skin there. And that is from the opposite leg's hoof constantly rubbing in exactly the same spot, which strips that little patch of fur and hair, and so it's just a bald patch of skin. And so that's from constantly lying down all the time. They don't only lie down to rest, but sometimes they'll roll around in the dust and the sand to just scratch themselves, get themselves a nice little dust bath going. And so sometimes you'll see a zebra with 4 legs straight up in the air as it's rolling around. Vixen, as far as I understand, zebras and donkeys are pretty closely related. I'm not entirely sure if they're in exactly the same family, but they're definitely in the same order. And so I'll just quickly read up about that and get back to you, Vixen. It's quite interesting to see this youngster. See it's starting to flick its tail a little bit, and it's just about to go to the loo. So as it does that, I think we might leave it in peace and carry on.
And we are just watching this gorgeous orange glowing sunrise on the horizon here at Eco Training's Pridelands Conservancy, looking for any signs of predator activity, which we heard last night. And hopefully we come right this morning. Good morning, I'm Mike. Behind the camera we've got Seb. And as I said, we heard lots of hyena and other activities last night. And Seb and I have been on the road since about 6 this morning, and we did come across some leopard tracks and some scat, as well as lots of hyena tracks. So we're just doing some loops around this area, looking for where this spotted cat might have moved off to. Hopefully we get so lucky and find it this morning. We hear them often, we don't see them as much as we'd like, but as you can see, that sunrise is gorgeous. And as the sun rises, it might get a little bit cooler. It is very, very windy at the moment, which is good for leopards hunting. And the reason why I say it might get cooler, as the sun rises, it causes air currents to move around, cold air shifting. Maybe not today with all the wind, but it's definitely a good opportunity for this leopard, if it's still around, to get in some last-minute hunting opportunities. So that's what we're hoping for, while we look at this gorgeous sun just rising slowly. It's also good for us to just stop for a moment. It is windy, but we might get just a sound of an animal calling, indicating what might be around the next corner. Mornings always have such a majesty to them. You're always wondering what today might bring. Hopefully something golden and spotted. Would be great.
She's asking a question. Do you hear?
I do not.
Yes, Snazzy wants to know when does the dry season start.
Oh, Snazzy, you want to know when the dry season starts? The dry season, we're in the middle of the dry season right now, Snazzy. It started at around about April, I'd say. Our last big rains were in April. And after that, we get May, June, July, August. Around September, we might get a few little drizzles. October, November, the spring is. And then by December, we should have some decent rains have fallen, and it's the green season again. So yeah, we're in the middle, right smack bang in the middle, or actually the later half of the dry season. As you see, if we zoom out and start driving around, you'll see just how much of this environment is very, very dry. And I'm sure you'll see it in Ngala as well as in Djuma. It's very, very dry around here. So we'll just take a bit of a slow drive just to look for tracks. I haven't heard anything. It's been very dry. Just take a slow drive through here. There's a drainage line that we're currently driving along, which heads straight to a dam, in Ndlovu Dam, as well as our camp. And so hopefully we'll come up with something pretty cool.
Good morning and welcome to Djuma. And good luck, Mike, on that leopard hunt. We are on the same page as you, this lovely cool windy weather. Also hoping to follow up on a spotted cat. My name is David Hancock. On camera we have Theo. And we've just got in mobile. We came straight to where we had Nsele the female leopardess last night, and wanted to see where she's crossed, hoping she's crossed into Vuyatela, which she has, into Djuma. Her tracks are just ahead there. I'll point them out to you on the ground right now. Let's move a little bit forward. It looks like she's been hunting because she gave a little bit of a pounce, and Impala tracks are also all over the show, and I can see where one skids off rapidly. So circle the track so you can see where we get. There's one and there's two. Here is where the Impala is standing, and I see a couple of them on the road here. Some of it's been driven over by tires because we are on the main road, but you can see where they sprung away in panic. So let's see if Nsele was successful in her hunting last night. She looked to be quite hungry when we saw her. So I'm going to follow it into the bush and see where it leads. Lovely cool morning, as I said, lovely for leopard. It's this windy chill that they seem to love. They always seem to be more active. They'll be active for longer than on a lovely hot day. So let's give it a bash and see where it goes.
A very cool and rainy morning from and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. My name is Dewald, and behind the camera we've got Marcel. We just got into the southwestern corner of the reserve and to these nice open grass plains, and we've come across two young male white rhinos. And it's actually, if you've been following us for like the last 2 days or so, we've come past this area and it's the same two young males that we have found. And it makes me feel like that they are hanging around this area because it's pretty good grazing. As you can see, there's like a bit of a dip going here, and with this little drainage line thing here, I think there's quite a bit of moisture that's seeping down into this area, and the grazing is pretty good. Since we've gotten here, they've just had their heads down and they've just been feeding all the way. That tree that they're feeding towards right now, there's actually a black bird sitting right on the edge of the tree there, and that is, I can actually hear him calling. He's got like a very specific call, and he actually mocks quite a bit. But that is a fork-tailed drongo, and he is following these two white rhino bulls because he's waiting for them to flush out any insects that's in the grass or so, and he might hawk down every now and then. Let's keep an eye out, and we might see him actually hawk down and catch some of those insects. Funny enough, sometimes when we off-road and we are following animals and so on, these fork-tailed drongos even follow the vehicles as we drive through the long grass, and you sometimes see them hawk the insects and so on around the vehicles as well. Quite interesting. And look at the height of the backs of these two white rhinos. They are very similar in size, so that makes me think that they were probably born around the same time and probably left their mothers at around about the same time, and that's why they are sticking together. So before they become dominant, they'll look out for other white rhinos of similar age, and this is obviously good companionship. They feel a little bit more safe, and especially after leaving mom, you can imagine it must be quite an ordeal and quite a bad feeling to get kicked away by mom or a new calf that's coming into the play now. So they are just like sticking together, and you can imagine them being in this area. They must also give each other a bit more confidence, because we did see a big white rhino bull, probably the dominant bull of this area, the other day, like giving them a bit of a warning as he was coming past them, and they were getting closer to like a different female as well. Oh, another bird just flew there in front of them. Didn't really get a view of it. Tango, you're asking if the horn of a rhino will grow back after it was cut off. So
That is a very good question, and a lot of people ask us this, and it does actually grow back. So it is made of exactly the same substance as our nails, just compacted hair called keratin, and it actually grows back fairly quickly, quicker than you would think. So what we've seen over a few years and so is that it grows about, depending on different individuals and what they eat and so on, but about 10 centimeters for every year and a half or 18 months. So it grows back fairly quickly. So that's why dehorning rhinos or trimming the rhino's horns is not as bad as a lot of people think, because if the poaching and everything that we're doing, that we're trying to avoid, goes down, we can always stop dehorning them or trimming their horns, and it will just grow back completely, and they will stay as beautiful as they once were. Not that they are any worse off for now. You can see they're slowly feeding down. That one just picked up his head earlier and was smelling against the tree, maybe giving himself a bit of a scratch. But interesting that they are heading down into this little dip here, and it's probably because there's a bit of a breeze actually picking up, and it's a cool breeze coming from the south, and I wonder if they may be trying to get into this dip to get out of this cool breeze for a little bit. Shelley, I've heard a lot of stories like that where people burn dung to get rid of mosquitoes and so on. I don't think it's necessarily a certain animal's dung or so, because even if you go to South America, like let's say South America, there they burn dung of different animals and it might chase the mosquitoes away. Some places even burn wood that termites have eaten in, and I think it has more to do with just the smoke keeping the termites away. So I'm sure if you're in the African bush and you've got a lot of rhino dung to dispose of, like, yeah, it's not a bad idea to maybe burn a little bit of it around your house or so, but obviously it doesn't smell very great because it has passed through a rhino. They're the ones just turning a little bit. You can see how there's always one of their ears listening towards us, even the one feeding away from us. He's listening to my voice, because the wind is blowing our scent away from them, so they can't really smell us, but they can definitely still hear my voice, and that's why you'll see that one ear just pointing in this direction all the time, while the other ear obviously listens to where they are feeding towards. Oh, there the bird just hawked down and went up onto a different tree there. We'll see now. There he's calling again. And it seems like they are keeping on walking down towards the thickets there. We are in this area, hopefully gonna be looking for some cheetah, and I think Marcel and I are gonna keep on driving and look for some tracks, and we'll leave these two rhinos feeding and going about their business.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to a very dreary morning here in Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Lauren. I have Craig on camera today, and I've already been to the hyena den. I bet you didn't think I was going to say that, huh? Well, that's not active. Now, we only saw one of Ribbon's cubs yesterday, so I know some of you are concerned, but I don't think there's a need to be concerned. I think he was sleeping quite heavily in the den, but I also think it's important that we keep checking. So I've checked and no one was there, and now I'm going to try and see if I can find any signs of Miss Tandy. We have yet to have a decent sighting of Tandy and cub. She's really keeping this cub stashed in Torchwood, which is rather unfortunate for us. Sabui's just down here with her two cubs on a kill, but we can't go there. Rather frustrating. So I'm going to focus my attention on Tandy today and see if we can pick up on any signs of her. She keeps crossing Torchwood, Djuma, Torchwood, Djuma. She's gone back to her sort of natal stomping grounds. She's very much adjusted her territory. She's got a lot of pressure from Shadulu, Sabui, even her own daughter, Klalamba. So she's very much shifted east, and for some reason she's just rarely bringing the cub onto Djuma, that we know of, at least. She seems to prefer to keep the cub on Torchwood. But that's my mission for today. Go and search around for Tandy. And then towards the end of the drive, I'll look back and try and see if we can go to the hyena den again and spot that missing cub. Indigo girl, you're saying... I did not catch that. Kirsten will repeat it. Darn that torchwood. Yes, I know. Tell me about it. I hate that phrase they have crossed out, and yet we say it a lot. We have a big bird up here. I'm going to try and get closer. Please don't fly away. I wonder if it's one of the battaliers, but I'm not sure yet. Shall we try from here, Craigie? Excuse the power line. Oh, hello, juvenile battalier. You're getting older and older. Now, this is the area that we always see the adults, the monogamous pair of battaliers. And I think this is their offspring. Doesn't look like a battalier, really, it doesn't. But when you look at the outline from a distance, you can see that really fat head. Now, the head isn't actually fat. They've just got a lot of feathers surrounding their head, so it takes on a particular shape. And this is an immature battalier. It's probably got a long time to go before it develops its adult plumage. It can take up to 8 years for a battalier to sort of grow their adult plumage. Something's walking up ahead. I cannot tell if it's just impala or not, so I'm just gonna look through my binoculars. Bear with me. I don't know if that was impala. It looked a little cat-like. I'm gonna go and check. You never know. It could easily be impala. But I have got my contact lenses on today, which is a good thing. There's an Inyala, so it's definitely not a predator, that's for sure. Oh, many of you are crossing fingers for Tandy. I know. We got lucky with her the other day. She wasn't lucky though. She'd made a kill and it was stolen by good old Corks. But I would really, really like to spend some time with Tandy and love to get to know that little cub. So yes, I'm crossing my fingers and my toes as well. Okay, so I'm going to bumble east and hopefully we'll find some signs of our queen. There's the adults.
No, bro. Good. Well, welcome back to Ngala. Not good morning. I've already said good morning. And I wish Lauren all the luck in the world. Hopefully you get lucky and get to see some leopard and some cubs this morning. We are still just driving along the road closest to the river. So the river is now on the left of us and we're heading back east. We haven't seen anything yet, but this is the area now that we'll really slow down and start searching properly. So looking on the road for tracks, looking on every junction to see if these animals have used these road networks as like a game path. So we'll be driving nice and slowly, and then anything that we see, cool interesting birds that we see along the way, we'll definitely try and show you. But I managed to just quickly read up, Vixen, if you are still watching, about whether donkeys and zebras are related, and they are. They're not only in the same family, but they share the same genus, so they're very, very closely related. Seems like donkeys, asses, zebras, horses, all are very, very closely related. So it's actually such a pretty area because we get these nice open grassy patches, but we get these beautiful big tall trees where the riverine vegetation starts to grow. So we're basically driving through what is known as an ecotone, from one vegetation type to another change in vegetation type. And there's just, like, look at this tree with the sun in the background. It's really quite pretty. And this tree here is called a jackalberry tree. And this tree is one of the trees that I've seen a young male leopard, known as the Makoti male, right up at the top of the tree, feeding off of a Wahlberg's eagle carcass. Ashlyn, I think so. The way that these animals know this area is incredible, and they, one thing that I've noticed before is, we'll be driving along a road and the road does a loop and comes back to the same line, and these lions or leopard or whatever's walking along it will just take a shortcut and just take the quickest direction back onto the road. And so they've got a very, very good idea of how to navigate and the direction in which these game trails lead towards. I mean, they're here and they walk it for 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so when we start to, it takes us quite a lot longer to learn it than the animals do, for sure. So we're just getting really nice and close to the river, and we're going to cross it and then probably head up towards that nice big waterhole I mentioned earlier.
So our leopard search is still going. We're just going in the direction where we thought the tracks went to. We're just looking for where they came out onto another road, basically. But what I wanted to point out was that, it's incredibly dry now, and the grass is very golden, and you can see it's very long as well. So it's very, very difficult to spot a leopard in this kind of environment. It's not as thickly grassy here as it was just behind us, but you can still see, imagine the golden spots of a leopard or the rosettes, and its golden fur just like hiding underneath that grass. It would be very, very difficult. What we're kind of hoping for is that we might just see the silhouette of a leopard in one of these dead trees around here, because actually what happened last night was I heard hyenas around the camp, and then coming out of my tent, shining my torch around, saw the hyenas, and then thought, they're just bothering around the camp. And then what actually happened after that is I went back into my tent, and then I heard this horrible squeal. It sounded like an animal maybe being killed. A small animal, a duiker, I thought maybe a scrub hare. Anyway, it was dark, and I thought, let me not just go out now by myself in the middle of the night. Then I went out first thing in the morning here with Seb, and we found the tracks of this leopard. No signs of a struggle or drag marks or anything, but lots of hyena tracks and the leopard tracks going up and down the road. And we found some very fresh scat, which looked like it might have already eaten, because it was very dark and liquidy and black. So we're looking for that leopard, and we're hoping that it might be somewhere around in these sort of dead trees, sitting somewhere. If it had killed something larger than a scrub hare, it might have actually gone into one of these trees. That's actually an awesome tree. I wish a leopard would be on that tree over there. You see it just between all these knob thorns. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's like some really nice dead trees around here, which would be perfect for a leopard to, look at that. It would be perfect for a leopard to sit on. So that's what we're hoping for, that as we drive around, we see the silhouette of one of these cats in one of these dead trees. Wouldn't that be perfect? Now, we have a lot of hyenas on Pride Lands. We know the Pride Lands clan is very active, especially around this area, because their den is not far. So we're hoping that maybe this leopard has treed its kill because of all the hyena activity. Chrissy is asking if we can look for Ezelwini, the massive elephant bull, this morning. Ezelwini was actually seen on Pride Land's northern border a couple of days ago, and he drank at a small waterhole there and headed back north. He's a massive elephant bull. We call him a tusker because his tusks are so long he can almost touch the ground with his tusks, even when he's standing up. So I'm really hoping that he does come back in a southerly direction. That waterhole along the boundary there might dry up soon, and if it does so, it will cause that elephant to walk deeper into Pride Lands, and we'll hopefully get a chance to see him. But for now, I think he's a bit north of our boundary, but we'll definitely go and head up there and have a look for him, Chrissy. I'd love to see that elephant again because he is absolutely magnificent.
We had some lovely waterbuck for you. Sadly, they have disappeared over the wall, I'm afraid. But we can give you a view, a very dramatic sky. of the clouds moving really quickly. You can just see the sun there over Chitwa Dam. We just wanted to pop into Chitwa before we scratch around the east for Tandy, because you never know what's happening. They don't have any guests here at the minute, so we don't get updates, and it's always just worth checking for wild dogs and of course Miss Kuchava. Consulting detective, doing your detective work, I see. Definitely nothing to do with Tlalamba, 100%. Tandy's keeping that cub in Torchwood for what I could suggest a few reasons, but it's not Tlalamba. So Tandy long ago gave a section of her territory to Tlalamba. The female leopards sort of separate from their mother at a different age from the males, and it's normally 18 months. Males is around 2 years on average. So Tlalamba long ago got that section of Juma that Tandy handed to her. It's definitely to do with paternity, I think. Now, looking at the cub, I'm just going to massively speculate here. You're welcome to share your thoughts. I always love to hear what you think. Oh, hello, wildebeest. We have a small migration happening beside our vehicle. 2 wildebeest on Chitwa. Riveting stuff. Never see wildebeest down here.
Sorry, I did not get those comms there, but just chatting on the radio, trying to follow up on where Sele went. No luck just yet, so we're just looping around back onto Simbambili now. Let's see where those tracks end up, but if nothing else, we will go follow up on those buffalo and lion from last night. See what transpired during the evening. Never know what happens at night. At night is when everything happens out here in the bush. The daytime is occurrences as the evening.
Sorry about that, everyone. We have a lone Ellie bull walking across the sort of open clearing at Chitwa. Magnificent on an overcast, cloudy morning. Now, as we watch this bull just get a little bit closer, I just want to finish wrapping on consulting detective's question because it's very interesting. I think it's definitely to do with the paternity. Now, welcome, feel free to disagree with me, but when I look at that cub, I do see Mulwati. And the options, oh, look at that. We've got a swagger. The options for the father of Tandy's cub are really, realistically, Tingana, quarantine, and Mulwati. That's really the options. I feel she's hiding the cub from someone. I just can't figure out who. If it's Mulwati's cub, would she really be hiding the cub from Juma? I don't think so. So I'm not sure, but it's nothing to do with Tlalamba, that's for sure. But good question, consultant detective, and tell me, who do you think the daddy is? He's walking right towards us. Michelle, you reckon Tingana? I hope Tingana. As many of you know, I love that cat dearly. Good morning. We see you. Yes. You're magnificent. Oh. That was a water walk after all. It's going for water. It's right next to the car. Blacksmith lapwings are now going. Everybody's going. A huge chorus of birds. Some of you are wondering if the birds are alarming at the elephant. I don't know if I would use the word alarming, but yes, unhappy. Some of them are unhappy, but not all. The geese are just going about their morning ritual of just being very, very noisy, as usual. Why do I always say the lapsmith blackwing? The lapsmith blackwing, yes, they're unhappy with the elephant's presence. That is ding, 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 because he's here. He's at the water body, close to the area that they normally are. The hoopoe's just going about his business. Hoopoo, hoopoo. Okay, we're just going to watch where this elephant goes. think it'll be magnificent if he goes across the down wall. Let's just find the right place to position. James Richard, I hope you had a wonderful day yesterday. It was a special day for James. He got a year older. But yes, I completely agree with you. Completely 100%. The fact that Sabui, Kuchava, who is Tandy's daughter, and Tandy, no mating was seen. And as you know from the lions, it's very vocal, it's a very noisy affair, it's intense, and you can normally hear leopards mating, just like when Tristan had Mulwati, Hukamuri, and Shidulu. Because no mating was seen and yet they've all got offspring, it seems to suggest that it could be a skittish male, i.e. Mulwati. I agree with you. I think Mulwati is the father of Tandy's cub, but I really don't have anything to base this on other than appearance. I think it looks like Mulwati. I wish it was Tingana's, I'm afraid, but I have a funny feeling it's not. And of course, as the cub gets older, we will collect the scat, and we will send it off to Panthera, and they will be able to tell us. But I also think we need to collect Mulwati's scat, or they won't be able to confirm it. They'll be able to tell us it's not Tingana's, and they'll be able to tell us it's not quarantine. But if we don't have Mulwati's scat, we don't have his DNA, they won't be able to say, yes, it's Mulwati's. So we've got a lot of missions ahead of us, following leopards around for their poo all day. How exciting. Mulwati's going to be the tricky one. How to get his scat, I do not know. You have to see it come out of his bottom. Otherwise, you never know if it's his or not. So you literally have to see the animal drop the poo, nice and fresh. And you don't have to collect it immediately. Of course, you have to wait till it's safe. But you need to know that it came from that exact individual. If you don't, then that's dangerous waters you're getting into. So we've got a lot of missions ahead, but even if we get the scat from the cubs, we can still rule out Tingana, we can still rule out quarantine, and then I think it leaves you with the inevitable answer that it's Mulwati. But James Richard, I agree with you. I think it's Mulwati. So I'm just going to do my last lap of Chitwa. You never know what's lurking in the corner, and then off to the eastern boundary I go.
We've just come down to Simbambili Dam. Stopped to have a listen and a look. It's the main body of water on this property, and with all the action that was happening here yesterday, we thought it's a good place to start our search. Because everything needs to drink. Lovely little Egyptian goose on that old nest. They often nest on old buffalo weaver nests or hammerkop nests. Quite peculiar for a goose. Perhaps out here in the bush they do that because of extra protection. Michelle, you say it's a nice nest, I agree, but I don't think it was built by this goose. It's just borrowing it. Far off in the distance over the hill, I can hear hyena whooping. I don't think you can hear it, it's quite far. But it's in the direction where the lions were last night, so I think that'll be our next move. It is very windy this morning. Sorry if there's some wind in my mic. It's a lot of gusts this morning. Interesting cold front that's come through. It's actually going to assist me with tracking because when it's very windy, it helps to see how fresh the tracks are. Wind gives the track kind of a blurry appearance. And then if you find a fresh track, oh, listen to the line right ahead of us. I'm sure you can hear that. Lovely. And that is why we sit and listen. Sometimes people get frustrated with just sitting, but I really believe in it. When you're on the vehicle driving around, you won't hear that easily unless you're very close to it. We wouldn't have heard that. But just taking the time, 5 or 10 minutes, to sit quietly at a body of water or on a high point and listen, very frequently pays good rewards out here in the bush. I'm of the opinion that our ears are probably our most valuable senses out here. So that makes our morning trekking quite a lot easier. As I was saying, it would have helped with the wind, because if we did find lion tracks, it would have been very easy to see if they're fresh or not. As I was saying, the wind will blow tracks quite blurry very soon, whereas if you find a crisp track on a windy morning, you know it's very fresh. But now we can kind of skip a few steps and go straight to that drainage line where the lion were roaring, as a lot of you are saying. The best sound in the bush, and I couldn't agree more. If you ask me what my favorite sound is in the bush, it would definitely be a lion roaring. Probably my favorite animal to... Apparently the first sentence I strung together was lion in the booth. Lion in the booth. A little bit of a lisp. My mom told me that was the first sentence I strung together. Lion in the bush. So no big surprise that they're my favorite animal to find. Excited to go and see where these lions are, start the follow-up process. Let's see if we can find them. I'm sure we will. They gave us a nice head start there with that sound. We're just gonna back up here. We are gonna possibly go through a little bit of a dip here next to the dam, but hopefully our signal holds. But let's just get around and pick it up on the other side, see how we go.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
So we are still on our way down towards the waterhole, and we've actually had quite a cool period of looking at tracks on the roads. So somewhere down to the right of us, we actually think we saw tracks of the whole pride going up towards the waterhole, which is directly behind us. And so we've just done a loop, and we were just about to get to the waterhole when we saw some very interesting tracks on the road over here. And I hope you can see it. It's a little bit faint, and I think it's just because the wind has been blowing a lot. So it's made the tracks look not as fresh as they are. And so it's right in the middle of my circle that I've just drawn over here. And if I were to outline it, we've got a back pad like this. We've got 4 toes like that. And then we've got 2 claw marks that you can just see over there. And so the claw marks indicates that it's part of the canine family, or at least either a hyena or potentially a wild dog. And if you just look at the sides of the track, quite thin and long, and then the back pad is really small in comparison to the toes. And the most pronounced feature are the 2 middle toes like that. So these stand out a lot, which means that this isn't hyena, it's wild dogs, which is very exciting. And we've been seeing a pack of 3 wild dogs around Ngala for the last week or so, sporadically. The tracks are heading in this direction. And so they could have even gone down towards that exact same waterhole that we are heading towards. So I think what we'll do is head towards that waterhole, and then if there's nothing and no sign of those lions, we might quickly drive towards these beautiful big open areas to the eastern part of the reserve, and maybe that's where they are going to hunt for the morning. It's actually, the wind seems to be dropping a lot, which means that I don't need my blankie anymore. It's not that cold, which I guess wouldn't really play into the wild dog's hand. Apparently I've almost shot myself in the foot with creating a wild dog expectation, but I'm up for a challenge. I enjoy looking for wild dogs. It's one of the hardest ones to find, obviously, because they just move so quickly and they move huge distances in one day. But hopefully, I mean, they've come from up ahead of us, so it's maybe seems counterintuitive heading away from where the tracks are going towards. But you never know. These wild dogs, they move in quite odd directions sometimes. Thank you, Anna. I got this porcupine quill from Ngala. It's a really cool little pointer. Better than a finger with horrible fingernails. Okay, so we're not too far from that waterhole, so instead of driving very slowly looking for tracks now, I think it's better just to increase our speed a bit, just so we can cover ground. And like I was saying, it's these wild dogs tracks were heading behind us, but they could change direction at any moment. Remember, this is pretty much the only water source within this whole area, and so the animals will be moving from all different directions at some point today to try and have something to drink. So if the wild dogs are looking for something to hunt, you know, they might be doing zigzags in this area, looking for nice big herds of impala, maybe flush out a steenbok or a grey duiker that's somewhere in these areas. There's also the added bonus of us maybe seeing if we can catch up towards where those lions were. So there's another junction, just a quick little slowdown. A look on the road. Apart from hyena tracks, not too much else. Cool. Yeah, let's carry on. So we're just around the corner from that waterhole. Like I say, we'll go and have a quick look there, and then if we don't see anything, Owen and I will try and get to those nice big open areas nice and quickly.
Good morning. It is a stunning day out here in the Kalahari at Swalu. It is fantastic having you with us, that you are able to actually join us this morning. Doesn't matter what you're doing, Davy is doing his best there on the camera, and it's great. It's not his best, it's awesome work that he's doing. And my name's Dylan. Yeah, and wherever you are, if you're chilling in bed with a cup of coffee, or I don't know, whatever you're doing this morning, it is just fantastic that you can join us. And so I've got something slightly different for this morning. In fact, over the next couple of days. So, Davy, you can see the shell ducks are still here. Shelley and Sheldon Shelby with their 9 little ones, and there is a work in progress on that one. Just bear with us a little bit. But what I want to do this morning, I got a message from our meerkat habituator, Rebecca, this morning saying they couldn't locate the rockstar meerkats at all yesterday afternoon, which means they seem to be missing in action for the moment. They will pop up. I'm not worried about it at all. You know, these things happen. They could have got split up for whatever number of reasons. But what I want to do, we know we're going slap bang into the breeding season, the nesting season of these pale chanting goshawks. So I really would like to cover quite a bit of ground over the next couple of days, trying to see if we can find this nest. They are pretty cryptic. It's not a very big platform. It's a nest bowl about that size, made out of twigs and sticks, twigs, bits of grass. They line it with softer stuff. but it's normally set in just below the canopy of a tree. So when you're driving, you don't see the nest too obviously normally. Sometimes they are a little bit more exposed, but not normally. So what we're going to do, we're just going to cover ground. It's still quite early for the adults to be flying now. It's a little bit breezy. They'll be out and about just now. So Darby and I, we're just going to zigzag through this area, heading southwards into the area that I think the nest may be this season, and see if we can pick up where the adults are, and then we'll just start observing their movements, which will be really, really good. If we can find a goshawk's nest and we can start monitoring that over the next couple of months, that would be awesome. Because see, those goshawks, they would predate on what are these birds called, Davy? Shell ducks. Yeah, they would even predate on shell ducks. They would predate on doves, like a little other one nesting. We know they go for meerkats. So it'll be just really fun for the whole story if we can start, like, we've got all the good guys. We want to add some more bad guys now. We've got the African wildcat. We know he's an absolute hooligan. We know the badger is a miscreant. So let's try add some aerial excitement into this mix. Yeah, but for the moment, still 9 little ducklings, which is really, really good news. Yeah, I can't see there being too much threat to these little guys. They are just absolutely fantastic little things, and they're being so well looked after by those handstanding ducks. Luke has asked, what is the lifespan of these geese? They can actually live for quite long. I'd have to check up the exact kind of thing, but it's probably 15, 16 years, give or take. I always focus in the wild, because a lot of these lifespan things are like based on captive bred birds. So they say, okay, well, in captivity X, and you need a lot of bird ringing. In other words, you need mark and recaptures, and you really need them to be like those ducklings need to be marked then, dink, and then they need to be followed where they've dispersed, and then they're going to be recaptured. So to get actual ages, longevity in the wild is often exceedingly difficult on species like this that cover big areas and move, because these little ones aren't going to stick around this area. They're going to disappear in 2 months' time, 2.5 months' time, not even up. So let's say 2 months' time, they're going to be gone. So there might still be 1 or 2 of them around. But yeah, so it's a really good question. But I always sort of tongue-in-cheek joke about, like, longevity in the wild is you'll live as long until a day a predator eats you. How long does it live? It might be a day. It might be 10 years. It might be 20 years. But what is interesting is we actually found I'm going back years now. We picked up an injured goshawk years and years and years ago, a pale-chanted goshawk, and it actually had a ring on its leg. It had been banded for research, and when we followed up on that bird, it was fine eventually. It made a full recovery and lived happily ever after. But that bird, we followed up on the guys that did that ringing. Okay, that goshawk was rung as a nestling 18 years previously. So, and when we got that, was a super healthy, and it had picked up a wing injury from something, but otherwise it was a super healthy adult bird, and it had a ring put on it 18 years ago. So, when we're going around, we're seeing like a lot of these things out here. Kind of just spare a moment, spare a thought for just how old some of these animals can be. And those are the animals. What about the trees? I mean, who knows how long some of these trees have been here? In fact, just out of interest, we're actually standing on an old dam wall. This is an old farm dam. The records show it's probably about 70 years, give or take. So look at these trees over here. These trees, you can probably say, started germinating shortly after the dam was established. So there you got a pile of trees over here, 70 years. For any of you that are in that category out there, happy birthday. These trees will be sharing your birthday kind of in a ballpark area. But when you start getting into these larger trees, these bigger things, wow, there are stories to be told out there. I think that would surprise, shock, please us. Yeah, there's some amazing things going on out here. But it's also exciting. Yes, it's a good day out here. Let's go find those goshawks for you.
Right, So I'm just showing you now a map of Pride Lands and showing you that's where our camp is. That's where I think this leopard was active around last night. We found tracks of him heading down this way, and we've done a whole loop of this area where we saw some tracks heading. And now we're on a road called Ndlovu Road South. We're just heading down here. We're about halfway down. We haven't seen any signs of this leopard yet. So now we're just actually doing a bit of a loop, which is important, you know, because maybe we're checking in the wrong area. It always happens quite often. We've had it before where you're looking in an area because that's where you think it is, and then all of a sudden pops out way far away from where you thought. So anyway, we're driving around here, and what we saw was some hyena scat. It's dry now, but that's a sign that the Pride Lands clan extends all the way down here. So we definitely need to be aware that this leopard could be hiding very, very well, because of course hyenas will steal their kills if they find them. And the scat here is a sign that this is a boundary, or at least a marker of this hyena's clan's territory. They will usually have not really a midden, but there'll be lots of small piles of hyena scat all around a specific point, and that's so that any hyenas that pass through this area know that they are now entering the territory of the Pride Lands clan. And it's a fairly big clan. I think they've counted at least 9 individuals in the clan, so at least 4 youngsters, and 5 adults. But yeah, we need to be very vigilant of these hyenas. They're very active around. Even now, on this windy days, if this leopard's been around, they can... I thought I heard something for a second there. Did you hear that, Seb? No. Maybe I'm hearing things. Maybe I'm going a bit crazy. I didn't sleep much last night. The hyenas were so active around the camp. They were busy trying to get into the kitchen. Absolute disaster, you know. We heard a few people wake up in the night, zipping their tents and running after the hyenas, saying, "Get out of here, get out of here." And you hear them picking up pots and pans and taking them back to the kitchen. Oh well, these things happen. What I'm going to do is keep driving slowly along and see what else we can find whilst we drive around. You know, it's always a surprise around any corner.
We managed to locate the source of the best sound in the bush. The mighty male lion just graced us to another roar as we arrived. Hopefully he'll give us another one in a few minutes. I only see him here, but I don't expect that the Nkuhumas are very far. We haven't moved around too much in this area, but I'm sure the females probably just further down in the drainage. Laura Moore, I completely agree. Stunning, eh? What a beautiful male. Majestic mane. Not only is that mane an excellent source of protection, like a shield, all that hair, when the males bite and fight and tussle, but on a probably equally important note, that mane just looks majestic. Makes the ugly males more terrifying and the beautiful males more handsome, and it's free. Jackie, you've asked, could the lion be calling to find its pride? I don't think, Jackie, to find the Nkuhumas. I think it knows exactly where the Nkuhumas are. I think this calling is more territorial and communication with his brothers. Still got quite the limp here. These lions have been through the wars. They all seem to be limping. I see one of the females of the Nkuhumas is also limping. Saw that yesterday. That's par for the course out here, being a lion. And as the viewers have confirmed, thank you for that. I thought it was Blondie, but I wasn't too sure. Only my second or third time seeing him. You've confirmed for me this is Blondie, just giving us a nice little territorial pee there. Look at that scene. What could be more African than watching that male lion move through the yellow grass? There's another territorial display. Scent marking on the quarry as he passes it. Look at the guinea fowl up to his right, getting out of there. Although they wouldn't normally feature on his menu. He would eat one if he could catch it. I won't be taking any chances today. Listen to this guinea fowl, all terrified of this huge male lion, all cackling their alarm as they fly away. Listen to him, here comes the roar. The sound is African as African could be. Absolutely awesome.
We've got some elephants here. They're not happy. It's a herd of elephants. Lots of mamas and youngsters, and I think it's the wind. It's very windy today. The sun's only just starting to break through, and elephants do not like wind. They really don't. So I'm just going to slowly try and catch up with them. They're moving quite fast. Okay, Craig, can you work your magic from here? It's not going to be the best views, I'm afraid. But I'm not going to try and get closer to these elephants, not today. Sometimes you can. But you've got to, it's really sort of situational dependent. And today, on a windy day, they're not happy. If you think about it, they have quite poor eyesight. They can see, but their eyesight's not very good. So they rely on sense of smell and hearing. Really rely on hearing. Look at those huge ears. And if it's going to be windy, that really disorientates them in terms of being able to determine where the threat or the sound of the threat is coming from. And it makes elephants particularly antsy. Every time there's a windy day, this is how elephants behave. Let's just see if we can give you another view. We have a nice open bit here. There we go. Gremlin, I don't believe so. I don't believe the trunks are all the same. in each adult, because each adult is a different size. You get some huge bulls and you get some quite petite females, but I believe the ratio of the trunk to the body will stay the same throughout each individual. But as for each individual's length, that will differ. And of course, we have many elephants that have shorter trunks. Maybe they've damaged their trunk, or unfortunately it's been caught in a snare, or it's been stood on when it's been younger. So each individual is different, but the actual trunk to body size ratio remains the same in each individual. But I think that differs for male and female as well. There's quite a big size difference between male and female. We forget that a huge bull really towers above a large cow. Bulls can stand shoulder height at about 3 meters, which is 9 feet, and a cow is normally less than that, between 2 to 2.5 meters shoulder height, which is of course around 7.5 feet. But there's a bull from Angola. It's now in a museum, I believe, a museum in Washington, and shoulder height, that bull comes in at 4 meters, 12 feet. Is this youngster suckling? I think it is. So yes, bulls can tower above cows. So I think their trunk to body size ratio is slightly different. We've got another, I don't know if it's a different herd or part of this herd coming up on the other side. I'm just going to keep my eye on them. We're not in their way, we're not blocking their path, but still. You don't want to irritate an elephant on a windy day. Isn't that lovely? They just walk on by, fork-tailed durongos following them every step of the way, and the occasional starling. Now, on windy days, when there's a little bit uncertainty, you find that herds sort of stick much closer together. Kirsten said I just gave her a fright with my beautiful starling impression. It's good to have Kirsten back in my ear, that's for sure. But sorry, that was a terrible starling sound. They do not sound that awful, I promise. Okay, I think this herd, we're not going to follow them. They've gone off into the thicket, feeding on their winter diet, which is definitely softer than last year's winter diet, that's for sure. So back to the eastern boundary I go to continue the search for Champy.
Look at the speed that these clouds are moving. You can really see the wind pumping up there in the upper atmosphere. Such a thick cloud cover, it's blotting out the sun. But there comes the golden rays. It's quite amazing on an overcast day like this. When the sun eventually peeps through, the golden splendor shining down on this big boy. We just relocated him, he moved off a ways. It's now flat on his side. Also enjoying the cool weather, no doubt. Deanna, you've asked with such sharp teeth, how do lions not hurt themselves when they're grooming? I suppose they're just very meticulous and they nibble just in the right spot, just above their skin, so that they don't actually bite themselves. Similar to the way you might have seen a dog nibbling at fleas, because lions do the same thing. They know exactly where to bite and not to bite. Their teeth aren't razors, even though they may look like it. They're not so terribly sharp. Their biting and puncture capability of their teeth comes from the power in their jaws. Of course, they are pointy, but not like razor sharp. They would break very easily if they were razor sharp. Instead, they're more rounded and pointy. Strong canines. The sheer strength of their jaws allows them to puncture and penetrate an animal's thick hide. Neva, he's saying if you didn't know he moved, you'd assume he was still in the same spot where we had him yesterday. I suppose it does look similar. The bush is all yellow and dreary this kind of time of year. He's moved pretty far though, probably about 3 kilometers in a straight line, a couple miles.
WildEarth, come in.
Just gonna have to chat on the radio real quick. We've got another vehicle who wants to come and enjoy this sighting with us. Send for David.
Hi, David. So you got that boundary fan or one up?
You are right. If you have a look to your left, you'll get me visual here in the block. So they didn't move too far, these lion. Quite curious as to where the Nkuhumas are. I think if we move on from this boy a little bit later, we might go try and follow up on the rest of the pride. Well, I don't think they ate anything last night, although I was hoping there might have been a bit of action. Their bellies didn't seem that empty, so just content lions, and what a privilege to find them yet again.
So what we're doing is we're just crisscrossing these southern areas now. So the meerkat burrows, what we call the far burrows, the original ones where the rock stars were, is located just up to the right front of the vehicle here at about 450 yards. And then the Boskia burrows are out to the left front of the vehicle. There's a racing pigeon. Or is it? No, maybe not. No, it's not. Just the light. There's a lot of pigeon activity, dove activity. What do you call those things? Cape turtle doves. So there's so much nesting going on. That's why I really want to try to find more nests. But anyway, yeah, so the one burrow system is here. The other burrow's out that direction over there. And but we're just going to carry on zigzagging through this area, because I think that goshawk nest is out in this direction over here. I've got nothing to base that on. It's just a complete gut feel over there. So it could take a bit of time, and we might not find it today. I'd be very surprised if we did find it on one drive. That would be a huge amount of blind luck to get that right. But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to stop every now and again. I'll climb up onto the bonnet like a meerkat, and we'll just scan with binoculars. Trio has asked, are animals more active in the summer or the winter? They're actually active right through the year. There's no specific time. There are certain groups of animals that will have higher activity patterns in summer as opposed to winter. And the thing that jumps to mind immediately there are things like reptiles. You know, there's very, very, very little snake activity at the moment. So I'm just going to scan you. You'll recall, those of you who were with us a couple of weeks ago, or like 10 weeks ago when Jandre was here, when we started doing this, we had a lot of snake activity, a lot of puffhead activity around. And but that we haven't seen a sign of a puff adder for. Oh, there's a leopard with cubs again. Beautiful, man. We haven't seen a sign of snakes for weeks now, and that's just because of these cold temperatures. But otherwise, animals continue doing their thing. Eh? So you get, and then there's other organisms as well. You know, we just think of the animals, but what about the plants? You know, there's plants that have got peak activity times and times that are less good for them. You know, we know going into the winter, the daylight length is shorter, so they stop photosynthesizing, the leaves change color, and we can chat about that later as well. The color of leaves, I love the changing color of leaves. In fact, I just love everything out here. It's so cool. Like I always say, one day when I'm big, I'll work here, yes. We're gonna get them.
We were looking for some cheetahs earlier, but then we got an update that someone found these, actually 2 lionesses and a male lion, and it looks like it's female from Bayala Pride in on and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. And we are now looking at this beautiful lioness, and they've been walking for quite a while, and they've just lied down, and as you can see, she's grooming herself there, cleaning around her claws and her paws and everything. So a couple of days ago, we were viewing these lions and filming them, and a herd of elephants came into the pride and actually chased them all, and they all scattered. So there's been lion tracks all over this area. There's now these 2 lionesses here and the 1 male lion, but the rest of the pride, which is all the subadults, the 1 lioness with the 2 small cubs, they've all just scattered everywhere, and we are not too sure where they are. Our tracking vehicle picked up some tracks of the subadults quite far away from here, so I think these 2 lionesses are just walking around, hopefully looking for the rest of the pride. And as far as we know, one of these lionesses is the mother of the subadults. We're not sure if the subadults are with the other lioness with the 2 smaller cubs, but I think what we'll do is we'll stick around and see, hopefully, if they do get a move on, and it is nice and cool, so if there's any chance for that, they'll maybe take us to the rest of the pride, or maybe start vocalizing if we're lucky. It's interesting how she's like just grooming herself there, cleaning her paws. Something's just caught in her attention there. She's just looking down the hill there. See the little bit of breeze coming over? Let's see if she picks up her head just slightly, maybe smelling the breeze. Oh, she might be smelling at the moment. Bittersweet, I think it was quite a while ago, like they believed it was up to 5 kilometers away, but what I've witnessed on Pinder itself is up to 10 or so kilometers. That's, and I'm sure it's even further than that they can hear each other, because their hearing is much better than ours. Because we were tracking lions the one day, and we were about 10 kilometers away from a different vehicle sitting with lions, and we could hear the faint roaring of those lions in the distance, and that was about 10 kilometers away. And us as humans, obviously, we don't have as good hearing as they do, so I'm sure they can hear even far beyond that. Probably up to, I would say, about 25-30 kilometers if the wind blows in the right direction. So yeah, quite far away. Yeah, she's just leaving her paws there. I was just saying earlier, like, she was walking the whole day. She's actually now biting a little bit there, trying to get some ticks off. And so the fact that she's grooming the whole time like that means that she's probably not ready to settle down yet. She's right in front in the direction that they were walking, so it makes me think that she's maybe leading this little group, and she might be the mother of the subadult, and the fact that she's in front probably means that she's looking for either something to hunt or hopefully her youngsters. There she's just turning a paw now. See how she like nibbles in there? Like you can see how she's grinning, like pulling her face a little bit, like pushing into there, trying to get in between the little pads on her paws. Maybe there's like a tickle, maybe even a thorn that's irritating her there. Oh, look at that. And isn't she beautiful? These two lionesses, or actually all three lionesses of Biala Pride. Oh, there she's just picking up her head. Oh, look at that. She's just heard something here behind us, maybe seen something. Yeah, grooming still. And there's a watering hole not far away from us, up the hill behind us. So I wonder if they maybe will head up into that area a little bit later. Yeah, she's now grooming all around her legs. I can imagine the grass was maybe a little bit wet with some dew. There was a slight little bit of rain falling earlier, so maybe she's just trying to get like that moisture and everything off of her legs. Interesting behavior. Black Widow, this lioness is so beautiful. You are dead right. And if it's incredible that she has almost no scars on her face. Usually lions, as I'm sure you know, they can often fight around carcasses and fight with males and so on. But this lioness, she's almost got a perfect face with no blemishes or anything like that. You can see the little marks just above her eyes where her eyebrows are. There she's lying down now. There's a cool breeze coming out. See how she's like trying to make herself as small as possible, like almost rolling herself up. And I think that is them settling down. The other two lions haven't really even picked their heads up. They have just been out for the count. So I think she's also, maybe that grooming was just to clean herself a bit, and it seems like she's settling down. But you can see her ears are still up, listening. So I think we'll stick around. Hopefully they start moving soon. But we'll, oh, look at the flick of the ear. There's definitely some insects and so biting her as well. And we are even further in the western edge of the reserve now of Pinder. And like I said, it's on a hillside here, but on the other side there's big open plains. And I wonder if they're heading in that direction, maybe to go look for something to hunt. But for now, Marcel and I are going to stick around here and see if they get up to something.
From one snoozing lioness to our snoozing male. That time of the morning where they are all tired from their evening's missions and activities. And now having a little siesta in the long grass. Crystal, the lions roar differently for different purposes, most certainly. Most of their roaring is territorial display, where they have to keep maintaining their territory. So lions move a lot throughout their territory, especially the males, and they keep roaring as they go, as a warning and a display to any other males that may potentially be in the area. Nomadic male lions, which are generally younger lions that have been kicked out of their father's territories, will be on the hunt for new territory. That's what lions do. After about 2.5 years in age, they start getting strong enough to do a potential takeover. It's in their DNA. That's what they need to do. They need to take over a territory or establish a new territory, preferably with a pride, and start their process of breeding and furthering their genetics. So a male that's already holding a territory, such as the evokers, will constantly have to be on the lookout, and the majority of their roaring is a display that this is their area, their territory. Intruders be warned. And then of course there's the communication, often between brothers in the coalition, males in the coalition, as they split up and roam around different parts of their territory. They keep in contact, and of course contact with the prides themselves. Females in the pride also roaring in a territorial manner and in communication with their coalition of males. And it's generally pride males that already have territories that are most vocal for the reasons we just discussed. Nomadic males, or males that don't have territories, are often more silent. Sometimes you'll find a younger male or a nomadic male moving through the territory of other males, and they are generally silent because they don't want to be detected. If they are detected, it'll draw attention to themselves, and they will be perceived as intruders, often with terrific fighting, much to their detriment. However, if you do find these nomadic or younger males starting to roar in the territory already established by other males, that generally indicates that they are looking to establish or have conflict with the already resident males, initiating the attempt of a takeover. Very interesting lion dynamics. When you spend a lot of time with them, there's always something new to learn. It's quite a feat to be a male lion and hold on to your territory. It's not very long-lived, but while they do maintain their territories, it is magnificent to watch them in their youth and in their dominance.
So we have now come back into the Timbavati River. Unfortunately, no luck with the wild dogs. I think it was a long shot to begin with, but we drove into the areas where we thought they might have headed towards, and there was just plenty of animals around. And so we jumped down into the river, and I think we might continue on towards the area where we last had those lion tracks to see if we might be able to see any sign of them. But we literally just found this very interesting little critter, which we don't see at this time of year, and it's a dung beetle, and it's a huge dung beetle, and it's completely hollow. If I tap it, it makes a very hollow sound, which means that there's no more insides in it left. So this is just the hard exoskeleton of the dung beetle, and you can see, I mean, it's all rigid and things, but these are the big front legs that it uses to push the ball behind. So it basically will create a ball. Okay, let's quickly go over to Pinder. Apparently there's some action going on there.
Okay guys, we've just raced here and we found this female cheetah with her two cubs. They're right here next to us. And two male cheetahs just came out of nowhere and is now harassing this female. Oh my goodness, listen to her calling there. And like trying to fight them off. Look how she's getting onto her back and using all four her paws and claws. Okay, here comes the cubs. Maybe they'll come into frame now. You'll see them, they're just trying to come a little bit closer. Listen to their sounds. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the cubs come. Oh my goodness, I hope hopefully these males don't do too much to the cubs. Let's see what happens. She will protect them with all she has. You see how she's trying to like keep them away. Let's hope they leave her alone. They were obviously harassing her just because they are quite territorial, but now you can see they're smelling the ground where she was lying down, probably trying to figure out if this female is a threat to them, but also if whether or not she's maybe an estrus. Seems like they're settling down now. Let's hope that the cubs are okay. The cubs are now snuggling up to her, everyone has settled down now. For now, she's not even growling that much or anything like that. She's not going to try and run away, because if she tries to run away now, the males are going to try and pounce onto her. So she's trying to be as neutral as possible. Let's see, here come the one male's coming a bit closer. The cubs will run away, and she will definitely protect the cubs from these two males. So here we go. Let's see what happens. Okay, he's just coming closer. See how his head is down low, so he's trying to make himself quite big, trying to arch his back a little bit. You can hear her making her noises. And even the cubs are also calling. And this is trying to be as assertive as possible and trying to make themselves as least aggressive as they can. Look at that. See how the cubs are just calling towards them, almost telling them, please don't do anything to us. What an incredible scene. Okay, let's see what happens. He seems like he wants to just sit down. See how the one male is just smelling the ground there, trying to figure out what this female is all about. Okay, one male's moving off. Let's hope the brother follows. This is so insane, and this just, all these sounds that we've heard now, it just it shows you the different sounds. Yeah, all the different sounds that they have and so on. And exactly, they do sound like birds. It's so incredible. Those squeaking sounds are the tiny little cubs, and then you can hear the little bit louder one, that's mum. Okay, let's see if we can creep a little bit closer. I don't want to do too much, but we are literally just going to creep forward about 10 meters or so. And then see if we can maybe get a little bit closer. Maybe you can hear the sound a bit better. I'm taking it very slow, and I think literally right here. I think let's stop right here. We don't want to go closer than that. Kathy, even mine, because a male cheetah is actually known to sometimes even kill female cheetahs, especially if they have young cubs, because they'll try and harass it and harass the female to mate with them, and to the point where she might be killed. But it seems like they're settling down now. They might actually hang around like this, these two males, for quite a bit until they start to lose interest completely. In which case, if they start to settle down like this, hopefully she will take the chance and she might slip away with her youngsters. And it's actually quite sad for me now, because we found that this female, we know which female it is just looking at her, identifying her facial patterns and so on, and she only has 2 cubs with her at the moment, and she actually had 3 cubs the last time she was seen. So that is quite worrying for us. We hope that the other cub is maybe just in the area, but he is missing at the moment. Let's hope he does come back soon. You can see that one male is now lying down completely, and I think the other male is lying flat in the grass behind her as well. Chris, that is a very good comment there, and that is, it's correct. So like, if these cubs were to run away, or if mom would leave them or try to slip away, then they might pounce, but it seems like they have settled down, and they've now seen that she's probably not a threat and the cubs are not a threat. Like infanticide with cheetahs are not too bad. Look how she's calling straight towards his face. Oh my goodness, she is just pleading to him to not do anything. I don't know if you can hear that, but there is like a growl, like almost when cats fight, and that is the male making that sound. That is incredible. I'm so glad that you can all hear that sound. There's some vehicles coming down. We are on like a little bit of a main road here, so we might have 1 or 2 other vehicles coming to join us, or maybe coming past. It's just because this is such an incredible scene. See how every time he turns his head towards her, she is just calling, trying to make him please stop. And this female, hopefully the other cub is still alive, but the fact that she still has 2 left at this point is still incredible. Look how cute those youngsters are though. Oh, you can see the other male's head just sticking out just behind the female. Ola, you're asking if these 2 males are maybe familiar to this female. It's very possible. This is in the middle of their territory, and this female has been hanging around in this general area. So it is possible that it's very, very possible that they have actually seen each other and had confrontations like this before. Oh, what is that mark on that male there? Oh, wow. He's got quite a big scar on his back front, or one of his front legs there, on the back of his front leg. He maybe had a run-in with something. Not too sure what, maybe fighting with his brother. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, it's even possible that these might be the fathers of these 2 cubs, as they'll often, with them working together to fight for territory or mates, and her being in this area, it is possible that she might have mated with them and had these 3 cubs. Right. It seems like the one male's now gone back again to smell the road there where she was lying down when she was on her back, and that's probably because like her whole body was around. She could have even it's quite something, like, you know, when something is scared, they might urinate a little bit. I wonder if that's maybe what happened. She smelling where estrus or not, give them a little bit more information about her also. So she stopped calling now. That male's also lying down. I hoped he was gonna turn around and face the other way so that she could maybe slip away. See how he's like lying straight with his... Because yeah, that is so true. She is definitely keeping it's maybe that soothing voice. She like tries to cool them down, and I think the fact that she is being so relaxed around them, and she's trying to just plead to all them, and also trying to make herself not as aggressive, or trying to be as least aggressive as possible, she's definitely doing a great job at it. Okay, the other males now sit up right behind her there, so we'll see if he maybe starts to come a bit closer. It is starting to drizzle quite a bit. Let's hope the rain stays away for just a little bit so we can keep on filming. Okay, Kerry.
We're going to interview if these lions come here, just so you know, in terms of love. I don't know if we're sticking around.
Okay, copy. So I think we'll stick around here for a little bit. There she's also like settling down now. And I think we might have to just go a little bit forward and see if we can maybe get a view of those youngsters a little bit better now that they are moving a bit, or settling down a bit. Sorry about that. Oh, look at that. She's... one just stood up and pounced on her. Oh my goodness. And the youngsters just scattered. Okay, I think they are now, every time she just turns her back on one, like you saw the male behind her was turning, was right behind her, and I think she was like starting to go down, and she was actually going to lie down, and that was like his go to pounce on her. See how they're smelling again? Oh, these poor youngsters must be terrified. Oh my goodness, no, not the youngster, please. See, they are a little bit hesitant to go towards the cubs, which is a good thing. I am just as stressed as everyone. I hear there's some comments about being stressed out about these cubs. It is super intense. Let's hope that something happens and these two males leave them alone. Right. Starting to drizzle quite a bit now, so let's see what happens. See the two youngsters sitting right next to each other now, cuddling up, and they are calling constantly. You can hear that very high-pitched call there. Butterfly, yes, they should definitely do that, but who knows, maybe there will be some males, other males hearing this. There's a lot of sounds coming out here, so you never know, something might come and interact with them. There was some lion tracks in the area as well. Let's hope that that does not cause the lions to come into this area either. Let's hope these two males move off and they can stop calling. Oh, it's starting to rain quite hard now. I think we are going to have to get out of this rain. Oh, there she's just turning towards him. Okay, I think it's starting to rain quite a bit. I love the rain, and it's very, very neat. We need it so much, and it's very, very welcome. I think we're going to stick around and see what happens here, and Marcel and I will maybe come back to you a little bit later.
So from that mad action that it sounded like was happening at Pinder with those cheetahs, we've come to a relatively peaceful scene. It's windy, but we've got a small family of elephants just feeding in this grassy area. It's quite nice and open. It's very windy. I'm surprised the elephants are actually here. My goodness. What's that? I don't know if you heard that, but there was a big rumble. We've been sitting with these elephants for quite some time now, and they've done it twice. There was another herd of elephants that sort of went down the hill very quickly about 20 minutes ago, so maybe that's part of the same group. I'm not sure. Maybe it is the wind that's just getting them a little bit anxious, but the baby elephant seems to be also confused. What is this wind? Why is it so windy? What is this? What does this mean? Oh, that's cute. Look at it running. Ah, it's the sweetest thing ever. Oh, I see why they're complaining. There's a couple of elephant bulls just coming into the scene here. Aha! Look at the females. Maybe not such a peaceful scene. Look how defensive they're becoming. Ears up, head up. Oh. Big rumbles. Okay. So these elephant bulls have probably been shadowing this herd, and the females do not want them. They are not interested. Look how much bigger they are. That's what the rumbles were. That's why the other herd of elephants was getting out of here, because the males are in the area. That's interesting. So they're not very big males, size-wise. Oh, no, she's not happy that we're here either. I know, girl, I know. We'll move out of your way now. You are having a stressful day. Oh, my girl, you'll be alright. You'll be alright, my girl. I know, the boys are bothering you. I know. We'll get out of here as soon as you give us a little space, alright? Thank you, my girl. So, as you see, the male elephants have come in here, and that's what's gotten these females riled up. They were feeding quite peacefully before, and now the males have got them all worried. It's very, very interesting behavior. It's not often we see, well, one female is actually suckling her calf there. It's very, very interesting. We've got one elephant very stressed, and the rest super relaxed. Anyway, we'll continue watching. We'll give them a bit of space.
Look what we've just found. Just as we thought we were giving up on the wild dogs, they were in another completely different area. And they are all lying on the road. A couple of them have got very, very full bellies. And that one that's trotting towards us, look how swollen she is. She's got a slight little limp. And there's lots of blood around their faces. This is amazing. So they must have just caught something, and it looks like they're either settling down. There's a couple of them that are still trotting off into the clearings. It only seems like a few of them are very, very full and bloody, and so it might have been something small that they caught. It's one of those awesome mornings where I think a little bit of luck was sprinkled over us this morning, because we had essentially given up on finding these wild dogs, and just as we were looking for tracks of lions, these wild dogs were literally in the road, so we didn't really skillfully track them down as much as I'd like to claim we did. And it's quite interesting, there's a few of them that are really looking to move again, and it looks like they might be some of the older ones of the pack, so I don't know if whatever they caught they might have left for the younger members of the pack maybe, but the ones that have fed are quite clearly quite comfortable just sitting on the road over here and relaxing. You can see that one there with those huge ears. And just look at the face, those ears are perfectly intact, so that's one of the younger ones. Off the jacks, apparently this is the first time you're watching, and I promise you drives aren't as action-packed as this in most cases, so you obviously have brought the luck. Thank you so much for watching. But this is really incredible, and off the jacks, if you've ever seen or heard of wild dogs before, I mean, this is one of the most special sightings that we can have within this area. I mean, they're one of the most endangered predators that we have throughout the whole of Africa. And in southern Africa, or South Africa at least, they think that there's only between 500 and 600 left of these wild dogs. So for us to see about 7, I think it might be 7 or 8 of them, is truly special. And not only that, but I mean the way that we were looking for them, and just how much distance they cover, for us to see them on the road, sleeping, lying down, is incredible. And I just absolutely love those really big ears they have. So that's the general direction of where a few of the others have moved to. And it just seems like they're moving and walking slowly for now. So they might not be wanting to move too far. See, that one that we haven't framed doesn't look nearly as full as one of the others. Now what's really cool is we have no idea who these wild dogs are, so we get to try and figure it out.
So we gave those elephants a little space, we moved a bit, and they continued walking down the hill in the same direction that the other herd did. And we're just sitting with one of the males that came in and caused all that ruckus. This bull feeding basically on the same bushes that the other elephants were feeding on. It's very interesting. So that elephant that came closer to us, we didn't sort of see it until she was very close. It's actually Susan, that elephant which has become very familiar with us. So she always kind of does some elephant acrobatics with us, and so we gave her some space just so that she knows she's right of way, and she's heading down the hill now with the rest of the herd. So it looked like 2 of the females had young calves, and then Susan was the elephant female with no calf. She's quite young. I think she might just be coming into the range of sexual maturity, and that's what these bulls are now starting to follow her, waiting for her to come into estrus for the first time potentially. And then they can try and mate with her before any larger bulls come into the area. I mean, these bulls are not big. They're not very huge. So they probably won't mate with her, but it wouldn't stop them from trying. And that's why the female's actually probably got all riled up there. They don't want these guys to try, because they're bigger and stronger than the females, so they can push them around. So the females would rather just give them space and move out the area. And also the wind. There's a pounding wind. It's like a gale wind that's coming through. You can see all the grass moving. And so that's also got these animals which have got huge ears. It's got them also alert and more stressed out. Oh, you can hear it, hey? It's like being on a wind tunnel. We're on a very exposed eastern facing slope, and this wind is just pounding through us, which is almost lost my hat there. That's how strong the wind is, and it's only going to get stronger for a few hours, then it should die down. But yeah, until it dies down, the elephants and all the other animals with large ears will not be very comfortable. We've actually only seen one giraffe this morning, and only two small groups of elephants, so animals are definitely more shy this morning. But we're going to head down to a valley after these elephants and see if there's maybe more animals down in a valley closer towards Leopard Dam. Let's do that now before my hat gets blown. Before we lose Seb, he's all up on the top of the vehicle there.
So here I'm back in my element again, but what I really wanted to show you in this tree, it's so beautiful to see, and it's like very, very, very clear. This is a camel thorn tree, very, very common in this area, and a very important part of the ecology in terms of it's pretty much what we call a keystone species, so it has an inordinately large role to play in this environment compared to its relative density. But the thing that I wanted to point out here is, if you look at these lower parts of the tree, there's hardly a seed pod, if any seed pods on it. But as you go up, right to the top, above me there's all these grey seed pods. And what's happening here is that those are the only seed pods that are actually out of reach of herbivores. So those are the ones that even the giraffe can't get to, because you've got this wide spreading canopy around the bottom over here, and they just can't get there. Even though their height may just make it, they just can't get their necks in there. But it doesn't mean that those are the seed pods that are the saving grace of the species, because they're up there, the herbivores can't get to them, so they're safe. They can't. It's actually just the opposite. The seed pods that you're not seeing, the ones that are missing, those are actually the really important ones, because they are so palatable, these seed pods. They're highly nutritious. The animals go for them a lot. That's why they all get gobbled up. The thing is, even when they're masticating those seed pods, when they're chewing those seed pods, so many of those seeds don't get damaged at all, or they only get lightly scarified. In other words, lightly scraped by the chewing process, and then they go through the gut, and then they get deposited in this beautiful pile of, no, I was going to say delicious, that's just horrible. This fantastic, nutritious pile of droppings, and then they've got this perfect germination element to be in. So these little guys that are sitting up here are almost certainly going to be predated on by something completely different to a giraffe. Megan says they look like fortune cookies. Megan, I don't know what fortune cookies you've been eating, but I think they might be the wrong ones. But yeah, so what's going to predate on these remaining seed pods up here is completely different to a giraffe or any other herbivore. It's almost certainly going to be what we call bruchid beetles. It's these tiny, tiny, tiny little beetles that actually bore into these seed pods, lay their eggs, and then those larvae will destroy every single seed inside one of those seed pods. And you can get 12, 15, 20 seeds inside each individual capsule. So those ones are not the saving grace, it's the ones that have already been eaten.
So they have started to get up, and they're very, very playful. They don't seem to be on a mission yet, but that can change in a heartbeat. They can all decide to get up and move. The general direction is away from us, so down the road, but they are spending a lot of time playing around And if you turn your volumes up, you can hear that very high-pitched squeaking noise. That's all of them communicating with one another. That's incredible. And so we've managed to do a count, and there's definitely 7 of them. So there's 7 of them so far. I've seen 4 females and 1 male. So there's 2 that I'm not too sure of yet. You see, so that might be maybe the alpha pair that are on the road wanting to get going, and then the rest of the pack are just in no mood to be serious. They're just wanting to play. And I mean, at this time of year, what's very exciting to see a large pack like this is that wild dogs will den, which means that the alpha female could have given birth in a very large termite mound, very, very, very similar to those hyenas in Djuma. So they would have chosen a den site like that, and she could have given birth to pups. And so if they're out and about like this, in this part of the reserve, there's a chance that we might have wild dogs denning on Ngala, which will be incredible. Throwing it out there, taking a shot in the dark, but I mean, we'll just have to see. And the way that they're behaving, I mean, they've fed already. A lot of the time, these wild dogs will tend to have something to eat, and then they turn and they run straight back to the den site to feed the pups. And so the way that they're kind of playing around and taking their time to relax might mean that they don't have a den site. Oh, ladybug, it would be incredible to see a wild dog litter. And I mean, so in the last 9 years, Ngala has had a pack of wild dogs denning 7 of the years, or 6 of the years, one of the 2. And so we've got a pretty good success rate. This season though, it doesn't seem like we have had wild dogs on the property denning yet. But 1 year, 1 alpha female gave birth to 17 pups in one go. I would love to see something like that. Okay, I'm going to move forward a little bit. And there's a few of these wild dogs that we can try and identify. And there's one that's got a very striking white bum and rump. And so that might be helpful in the future if we see them again. Otherwise, we try and look for distinguishing patterns around their faces, around their bodies. So things like white markings or no white markings. Yep. Yes, Beverly, you can, and what helps is that they give birth every year. And so this one that's in frame, I would say could have been from last year's litter. So we could say that one's probably around a year old. And you can also see it in their face. I mean, it's like they've still got that little puppy look to their face. This one's scratching itself. Oh, they've got such a distinctive smell. There's another dog off to the left of us. So there's 7 of them. And this one, you can see, it's got blood in between its ears at the back of its head, so it got stuck into whatever it was eating. And such a full belly. I think this one's the fullest one. And just see how heavily they're both panting. This especially that one. So this is the one that's coming into frame now, is the one that I've noticed has got a whole lot of white on it. So it's got white all the way down the front legs, it's got white on the shoulder. And so at least we can identify one if we see it again. So I'm going to be taking some photos and seeing if we can maybe get some more identification shots.
Oh, so sorry about getting away from this scene here for a moment, but I heard there were some nice wild dogs in Ngala, and we've now crept a little bit closer and the rain has gone away, so we can bring you the scene again, and it seems like they're settling down a little bit. The males do come closer and growl at them every now and then, but as you can hear, there's a lot of vocalization happening here. I'm just going to keep quiet for a little bit. Maybe you can hear the growling from the males. Listen to that. And you can hear the youngsters giving the squeaking sounds as well. So, like I said earlier, all these sounds and everything is pretty stressful, not just because of these two males being around here, but you can imagine these cheetahs are making a lot of noise now, so any other predators like leopard or lion or even a hyena will be maybe coming into this area to come and see what's happening here. So let's hope everything is far away and they don't really hear this or anything like that, and they'll be safe. But see how the youngsters are now huddling together? They do move every now and then the males kind of get up. Let's see what happens. Oh, look at that calling. How cute are these two youngsters though? Oh my goodness. There you can see the one's like grooming his sibling a little bit. Maybe they're a little bit wet from the bit of rain that we've had. Mr. Chief, oh! Sorry, I'll get you a question just now. Listen to that. Sorry, Mr. Chief, sorry. Those lines and stuff on their noses, and so those are, we know them as tear marks. And these tear marks are obviously all cheetahs have them, and it's believed to pull the light and the glare away from their eyes to help them with eyesight. So they rely highly on eyesight to hunt and to spot prey and other predators and so on. So it takes away the glare, basically the same as a football player that would put some black marks below his eyes to take away some glare and so on. So it's all to help with their eyesight. And sometimes you can identify them by the thickness of those lines on their faces, like little spots around them. Also, they almost all of them are unique. Sometimes you'll see mums and youngsters having similar markings. Look at them. See how this youngster keeps on looking towards the male there and calling, pleading to him to not do anything. You can actually hear the mum is growling as well. The two brothers actually, while it was raining earlier and we were not with you, they were actually fighting a little bit between each other as well. I think all the tensions are a little bit high at the moment. So, oh, listen to that growling. Here we go. See how he's like edging forward a little bit. Male cheetahs, why do you have to be like this? Look at this youngster that's actually closest to us. He's looking towards us. He's got a big scar on his face there, but it's now on the other side of his face, but it seems like it's an oldish scar. There you can see it properly. It's not red or anything like that. That looks like the skin's already grown back over it. And like we said, there is one of the other youngsters, one youngster that's not here. I wonder if that maybe happened back then. I mean, these two male trees were not far away from them. It could be that the youngster got lost because of the previous interaction between these. So look at the area that they're in. Even the long grass, how these youngsters would have kind of blended in with the long grass, with that long fur on their backs as well. Seems like they want to start grooming again. So our mom is even grooming a bit, so after the bit of rain they would want to get all this moisture off of them. I'm so glad that they're settling down for a little bit, but it's still very stressful. Let's see. Let's hope that this male that's closest to them, let's hope this second male, or the male closest to them, will move in. Darcy, so I think Marcel will try and get him for you. He's lying in the grass a little bit further away, but his eyes are closed. You can see he's actually dozing off. So he's kind of lost interest quite a bit, and I'm very happy to see that, because that means it's just his brother that has to stop, has to lose interest. Then they might be able to slink away and get away. Oh, but both of them are still here. So these two males are the two dominant males of this part of the reserve, and this is like the western corner edge of the reserve. So that's why they'll stick together. They won't really move away from each other, and they'll try and stay together for as much as they can. Oh, these youngsters, their faces are so cute. See our mom, her eyes are also closing a bit, so she's relaxing down as well. I think she'll only really vocalize and try and be aggressive if the males are aggressive towards her cubs. Look at this male, he's staring this cub down. Shame. They must be so scared. Neva, that is a good question. You're asking if the males will kill the cubs for food. I don't think I've ever heard of that happening in cheetahs, and as far as I know, according to all the research and everything, it does not happen. Cheetahs do not feed on other predators or so for food. They are quite picky in what they eat and so on. If they do kill these cubs, it's more would be accidental, out of harassing them or something like that, maybe feeling that they're a threat to their territory or something like that, but definitely not for food. I think if it was for food, male cheetahs would have killed cubs way more often. See, mom is settling down. Even this youngster closest to us, his eyes are like starting to close a bit. Oh no, he's now starting calling as well. You can see they're opening their mouths and calling a little bit, but it's not loudly. It's basically just to let the males know that they are not being a threat or anything like that. Oh. Okay, but it seems like they're settling down for now. Marcel and I are going to stick around here and hopefully these youngsters and the mom can slip away.
These wild dogs looked down the road and 3 hyenas started walking straight towards them. The whole pack got up, almost started stalking the hyenas. The hyenas saw that and just turned around and ran. And then since then they've been playing around with one another. They've been spending a lot of time. You can see almost each individual's been going from one end to another, just in my element. So I'm so happy that we get to see that. They might be, see, now they're on the move again. And it looks like they're moving with a bit more intent. They're in a single file. And we will try and follow them for as long as we possibly can. It is quite tricky. This area is quite dense. But if they're moving in one straight line like this, hopefully they lead us towards a nice big termite mound with a hole in it. We actually have seen, see, let me just turn quickly because there's hyenas walking straight down the road and they've also just ducked off actually. A pack of 7 wild dogs will put up a fight against 2 hyenas, so those hyenas might just decide to move out of the way. But this is quite typical with the relationship between wild dogs and hyenas, as the hyenas know that these wild dogs are such a successful species. Sure, I don't even know where to drive anymore. There's just so much happening. I'm just going to maybe back up and then the wild dogs will come past us, or a few of them will. See, so there's a couple of hyenas. I'm just going to stay put for a little bit and see if anything plays out. But usually what happens is the wild dogs will tolerate these hyenas because they're not really fighting over food. They'll start fighting as soon as they catch something. Then all of a sudden it becomes very, very competitive. And it will be an interesting dynamic with 3 very, very large hyenas against 7 wild dogs. It's a tough one to say. Should I move forward? Let me move a little bit more forward, because once again the wild dogs have settled down. Andrew, it's been insane, and just listening to what some of the other feeds have, it's just been crazy. So the wild dogs are on the left of us, hyenas on the right, and here I am stuck in the middle with Owen. So see, look how that one's reacted. Look at those ears. And these wild dogs are so much more agile and nippy around the hyenas. So the hyenas will depend on their brute strength and their sheer size, but these wild dogs are super agile. And so 3 wild dogs like this will give one hyena quite a good running, but if they see more than 2 or 3, then I think these wild dogs will retreat.
Guys, got an elephant shrew. This is incredible. I can't believe it. We have an elephant shrew, or actually it's what we call a sengi now, a sengi, S-E-N-G-I. We saw one a couple of weeks ago, and Davy spotted this one. We're actually looking at a goshawk, but we'll come back to the goshawk. Don't worry about the goshawk now. This is a fantastic sighting. I am ecstatic to see this at this time of the day. I mean, they are diurnal animals, but to see it out in the open like this, and I know it's got a little bit of grass in front, don't worry about that, but I'm blown away. Davy, I owe you one for this, my man. Yeah, how awesome is that, guys? So if there's any movement on the camera, please just forgive us. No, this is an insanely good sighting, I promise you. And the fact that it's sitting still, because normally they're just like darting around like crazy things. And if there's a little bit of movement on the camera, it's quite windy out here, so we got a bit of wind movement on the vehicle, but I'm so excited about this. This is called a bushveld elephant shrew, or bushveld sengi. Like I say, they used to be called elephant shrews. They're not shrews at all. They're not even related to shrews, and they're definitely not related to elephants. So they've changed the name to sengi, S-E-N-G-I. This is just unbelievable to see in the morning. And they've got the most beautiful way of communicating. They actually drum their feet. Deb says she doesn't see anything in the middle of the frame. I promise you I'm not making it up. Just look in the center of the frame. It's just behind those blades of grass. There's a very good chance it'll move just now. So we'll just need to be very, very patient. I'm so happy that Davy and I, we're just going to stick here and watch this little guy, because to see them out in the open like this is not, you don't get this opportunity often at all. So there are so many of them around. I mean, this is a super common species here, but just to see them like this is really, really, really difficult. Yeah, and as I was saying about the communication, they actually communicate by drumming their hind feet on the ground. And there are certain species where our colleagues are working in Pinda, and if they ever have the opportunity of showing one on one of these WildEarth safaris, it would be insane. It's a species I've never seen. It's called a four-toed elephant shrew. They are big and chunky things, and just gorgeous. But they've got these really stiff bristles on their tail, and one of the theories is that they can actually pick up vibrations from other elephant shrews using these bristles on the tail. Oh man, I'm so excited about this sighting this morning. And that little nose, you can see that it's almost like a prehensile nose, exceptionally good sense of smell. And they almost exclusively insectivorous, but they're omnivorous. So they'll go for little bits of fallen fruit and that kind of thing as well when it's in season, and insects are hard to come by. But GCM, I am absolutely blown away by this little guy. And massive eyes. So I don't know how... David asks, is that a hole or a burrow to the left of him? Absolutely. They will go down little burrows underground. I can't see it from the angle that I'm standing at. I'm actually standing on the bonnet here. But if there's a hole there, absolutely, those little shrews will make good use of those holes for cover. One thing I want to point out here, and it's quite an interesting thing, when we look at cheetah and things, we'll often look at those dark eye stripes and say, they got the dark eye stripes, it helps with kind of like reducing glare on the eyes. And when you look at nocturnal animals, you say, you see they've got the white around the eyes. It increases the light absorption around for nocturnal hunting. Well, this little guy just blows all of that completely out of the water. He's got these huge eyes, okay, and he's got white rings around his eyes, very, very pale around the eyes, but he's diurnal. Okay, go figure that one out. And often I think we see it with the research that our teams are doing here. Often there are these long-held traditional theories, but so often it's just taken for granted. You read it in a book or you hear someone say it and you just start repeating it. But when you go into it, often that's not what's actually happening on the ground. And there's also things like the historical origins of the name white rhino as one example, or black rhino. Why squirrels put their tails over their back. Why cheetah, can't go fast. Not go so fast. Why they run and then they overheat. This kind of stuff. Often there's not a huge amount of truth in it, and there's more and more research that's coming out that's just pointing out these facts. So I just wanted, I don't know how well you can see the eyes on this guy. But anyway, it's not great, but he's got these huge eyes, but very, very pale rings, white rings around it. So that's just a nice curveball for you to think about. Well done, Davy. Good job on this, man.
So just like the shrew that you have there in Tswalu, cheetahs actually have massive eyes for the size of their skulls, and it's also so that they have exceptional eyesight. So you've come back to the senior now, and the emotions are still very, very high. There's a lot less growling and stuff going on every now and then, and you can see the male is starting to look in the opposite direction there as well. But every time this male cheetah on the right hand side just moves a little bit, the mum and the youngsters start making noise and trying to plead to him to please leave them alone. And this youngster that's sitting up, he has not settled down one bit. He's just sitting upright like that and keeping an eye on this poor, on this male, not poor male, it's the poor cubs, right? But anyways, so there is quite a bit of growling from the male side. The female actually has fallen asleep, or closed her eyes, probably not fallen asleep completely, every now and then. But for now, they seem like the male's actually starting to lose a bit of interest in as well. Like his eyes are closing completely. So let's hope that they can slink away. It's so incredible. Like we've been sitting here, and every time the male just inches closer and something is about to happen, Marcel and I have like a bit of a cringe, and we just like want to grab in and help, but we'll let the natural world just play out. You are so correct. It is such a dramatic scene and so much drama. Oh my goodness, I hope these two male cheetahs will let them be. And when they were like standing upright like this, female and the youngsters actually look pretty hungry. So I think this is valuable time that is going to waste here. That these two males harassing them like this is not doing very well for this female, especially when you think about all the sound that, like I said, the sound that they're making. It might even chase all the other animals away, like impalas or anything that she might be interested in hunting. Oh, and then look at that. His chin onto his front legs there, trying to get some of that moisture from the rain earlier off. But see how that youngster's like opening his mouth every now and then. So that is making very faint sounds that we can't really hear, but he's like trying to plead still. Anushka, I said earlier him to this cub. It's actually incorrect. We are not too sure yet. They are still very, very young, probably just about 4 months old or so, just about 4.5 months old. So it's very difficult to say at this point, and the only way to see is if they pick their tails up and they're walking around also, and you can actually see what it is. But for now, I'm not sure at all. Like, let's hope that there is it's a male and a female. That will be good for the population in this area. Maybe one of them is a dominant male and he could learn from this and not be like these two males. Let's hope so. But yeah, it's difficult to say when they are very young. Like any other cats, you have to wait for them to develop a little bit. I don't know if you can see the one that's lying down. There's just a little white tip of its tail sticking out over its back there, and that is so iconic of cheetah cubs. They have that little white tip on their tail. Oh, look at that one, it's still calling. See how the mom is like listening in to the left hand side here? It is because I think there's some vehicles driving in the distance, because they've actually found some lion tracks and stuff in the area. Let's hope that they do not come in this direction. See how the male is starting to groom now? I think Marcel and I are going to stick around for now.
Wild dogs are just giving us a morning of entertainment. It is so cool to see. And we always say that these wild dogs have got two gears. They're either sleeping and resting, or they're running full speed looking for something to hunt. And so to see them interacting with one another and playfully moving around in circles is really cool. We get to see the best of both worlds. We get to watch them and appreciate the actual animal and what they look like, and then we've also been entertained by the way that they've just been bouncing around and chasing each other. And it's quite obvious that they don't have a plan to return back to wherever they've been going, and so the likelihood of them having a den in this area is probably quite small, unfortunately. It's amazing though. I mean, it looks like they're all settling down, but it just takes one to get up and move, and then all of a sudden they spring to their feet and they start groaning and whining and whistling at one another. So Lord, wild dogs tend to hunt anything that they're capable of. And in this area, because there's just such a high density of impala, they tend to hunt and catch impalas most regularly, I would say. But it's not to say that, I mean, if they happen to see a steenbok or a grey duiker or something like that, they'll probably target it. I would say their limits would, a pack of 7 like this, their absolute limit might be something like a female kudu or a young wildebeest. A lot of animals, especially the smaller ones, their first port of call when they see wild dogs is just to turn around and run as far as they possibly can. But things that are slightly bigger, like zebras and wildebeest, I've actually seen them standing their ground, and they'll form this small little tight-knit circle, and they'll try and work and chase these wild dogs away rather than running away from them. And that's proven, for most of the times that I've seen it, has been proven to be quite a successful tactic, and the wild dogs lose interest quite quickly. But the other day I was actually mentioning a pack of wild dogs on a gala, was actually seen catching and killing a small baby buffalo, but that was an anomaly. Things like that don't really happen often with wild dogs.
I'm absolutely stunned that this little Sengi is still giving us such a show. And when I get excited about these things, many of you may just look and say, well, okay, that thing hasn't moved, it's not doing anything. And just like, what's the whole point here? But to see a Sengi like this sitting out in the open is just fantastic. So he's actually doing something very important for him. He's actually sunning himself, same as the meerkats do, same as a lot of small mammals do. Remember, these guys can lose heat very, very, very quickly in cooler temperatures. Okay, today is a very, very mild day. It's not cold at all. So it's actually lovely temperature. But that little guy will be burning through energy at a phenomenal rate. You know, so he really needs to get that temperature up and then start moving out and feeding. So he's doing something important. So when I get excited, I'm excited about seeing an elephant shrew or a Sengi. Let me get the words right. That's also the problem with common names. Who cares if it's called an elephant shrew or a Sengi? But you say that to a rodent specialist, they just want to, and it's not a rodent, by the way, just also before you slay me for that, it's not a rodent. But the small, let's say small mammal specialists get so upset. Sophia's asked a beautiful question there. How does the shape of the nose help the Sengi? I actually don't have a good answer for that, because everyone will say, oh, well, you know, they've got a good sense of smell. Okay, well, why don't they have a short nose with a good sense of smell? You know, is the length of the nose related to smell? Perhaps. You know, does a pug have a worse sense of smell than a German Shepherd? I don't know. But we know sense of smell does vary incredibly, and it may just be the fact that with having a longer nose, there's more chemoreceptors there, perhaps. I don't know, but I will try to find out for you. That's a really, really beautiful question, that. Good one. But as insectivores, primarily, like I say, they're not insectivores, they're omnivores, but primarily going for insects. It may just be that little schnozzle, that little snout of a nose, can actually get into little holes and sniff things out more easily than just with a normal nose. But that's just me thumb-sucking an idea there. Oh, wow, man. These things are just adorable.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family. WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live show.
Stayed with Blondie. He was moving quite a bit. He keeps looking around, perhaps listening where his brothers are. I think he's also uncertain with this wind.
You are a big dominant boy, huh?
Although he's always slumbering at the moment, he's very alert, very awake. He moved about another 500 meters. Lovely little cold front blowing through the bush here. Quite an imposing cat. I was thinking about the stories of man-eating lions, something that people always ask about. Do lions ever eat people? There's been many accounts in the past of man-eating lions. I think most famous are probably the Tsavo lions that were displayed in Ghost in the Darkness, that movie. They ate 26 people at the end of the 1900s. end of the 1800s, up on the railway that was being built. There's other accounts in Tanzania, hundreds of people being eaten by a pride between the 30s and the 40s. Quite interesting to note these are normally nomadic male lions, perhaps old lions that were unable to hunt anymore. They turned to the easy prey of people. And then of course, very close to home in the Greater Kruger Park, there's all of the thousands that have possibly been eaten in the Kruger Park itself from the throngs of Mozambicans that have fled to South Africa. At the end of the 20th century, Mozambique was in quite a serious civil war. A lot of Mozambicans have come across the boundary, and there were prides in the Kruger that actually got well known for making meals of the refugees. Quite a terrifying thought if you think about it. No one knows for sure the number, but there were definitely many. Bev, you've asked how many teeth does a lion have? I'm not 100% sure. I think it's probably between 25 and 30. I'm trying to think now. Under correction, but around that number, between 25 and 30 is my number that's playing around there in the back of my brain from where I read it somewhere in a book. Enough teeth to make a meal. It's a little bit of a scary subject talking about man-eating lion, but it is something that's quite prevalent in Africa in our history. As I said, it takes an unusual situation for that to occur. Generally, like I said, an older lion that is on its way out and can no longer be sustained by the pride. It's probably been banished from a territory, lost a fight, all on its own, weakening, not as fast as it used to be, so it starts struggling to hunt, and that's when you get those accounts of them turning to perhaps livestock and then even people. But not Blondie, he's not a man-eater. He's a lovely lion to spend time with. And it's been a lovely morning with him. I think we're going to probably move on now. Let him continue on in his slumber and see what else we can find.
Grooming each other and lying in the long grass off to the right hand side. You can see Mom has now completely closed her eyes, and she's just dozing off for now. The youngsters also, I think, are dozing off. Like, it's such a high stress situation, and the reason why she's not really running off or trying to get away is I think she's trying to be as little or least threatening as possible. Because if she does get up and starts like running or just tries to get away, these males might jump up, and then we might start from the start or from the front again, and then it might take a while for them to relax down again. So she's like looking in the direction of the open area to our left hand side. So she's maybe thinking about it to just try and slink away. But I think she's gonna wait for these males to put their heads down and maybe fall asleep or something like that. She keeps an eye on them every now and then, but you can see even the cubs have now relaxed down, and they're also lying down, falling asleep for now. They're actually listening to my voice. You can see this youngster's ears perking back towards me. But it seems like the males moving off and losing interest is such a good thing. And I'm so glad that no one, or for what we can see, it looks like no one's got any hectic injuries or anything like that. Let's hope that they all come out of this unscathed. Oh, Wow, what a morning. Like, we were struggling for the last 2 days on Pinner to find anything, and it seems like this morning everything is happening. And, there's wild dogs everywhere, there's cheetahs,
Yeah.
but it seems like they are dozing off now. You can see this youngster's head also just going down. Oh, excuse the sound. We are close to a road here, so there is just a vehicle going past. Oh, look at the mom. She is so beautiful. Neva, yes, I'm so glad that they do, and it is incredible. I think it's just that natural instinct of having like the interaction and so on. At first, when the males just pounced, they ran off, and I think they saw their mother's reaction, and that is why they reacted the way that they did, coming back to mom, trying to be as least threatening as possible. So they ran off at first, but I think looking at mom's body language and what she was doing, they came closer and tried to stand with their mother and rather be here with her than try and run off or anything like that. It's incredible. I'm so happy that they did react the way that they did, because they could have kept on running away, and in which case it is a big dangerous world out there, and we don't want them to be away from their mother who could potentially protect them. Oh, you can see they are a little bit wet, the fur on the back of their necks also standing out, and a little bit messy and so on, but I'm so glad that everything is just cooling down for now. The male seems like I can see one's head is just up a little bit. Seems like he is listening in the direction of the sounds there, but he is picking his head up every now and then. Let's hope that he falls asleep, in which case we might see this female just disappear, and hopefully she can get away from them. Not just having these two males in the area, I was just thinking about it now. She is probably competing directly with them for food, as they will be hunting the same animals. That might be one of the reasons why these males were harassing her a little bit and trying to fight with her, because it is direct competition with them for food. If she's not an estrus, obviously if she's an estrus, she's a potential mate, but if there's a limited amount of food left in the area, a limited amount of antelope, like especially in this area it's impalas, then they are in direct competition with each other. Interesting how all these things work, and even though they are potential mates, they will still fight with each other. Very similar to the behavior of leopards as well. But I think I am going to stick around for now, and we'll see if she gets the chance to get away from these two males.
It's like there's been a lot of action going on with those cheetah. It must have been very entertaining to watch. Most of the wild dogs now have actually all settled down, which isn't the worst news in the world. It means that we get to come back here this afternoon, and the chances of them being in the same spot are very high, especially with that group that we're seeing, all with very, very full bellies. So yeah, hopefully we get lucky this afternoon again. It's always, every time that you spend with wild dogs, it just almost gets better and better, I think. And the conditions for them to be moving around in are quite perfect, so hopefully, they might decide to get up and move a little bit earlier on this afternoon, so we might have an action-packed afternoon again. So just because they are settled down now, I think Owen and I might move off and see if we can see anything else in the next 15 minutes or so.
Definitely not action-packed for us, I'm afraid. It's very quiet on the reserve right now. I think the weather's got something to do with it. But we have came across my favourite bird in the Mowati. Brown hooded kingfisher. I think this is a female. The males have black on their shoulder. And I think this one is brown, so this means it's a female. And you always find brown-hooded kingfishers in the Mawati. They're a common resident, they don't migrate like their cousins, the woodland kingfisher. They stay here all year round. But their diet has to adapt seasonally. So they mainly feed on insects, which of course in summer, well, insects are everywhere. But in winter, they have to adapt. Butterfly, thank you, it is such a beautiful sighting. I don't really know why. Butterfly, it was a beautiful sighting, but a quick one. There you go. At least we got to see it. I think I prefer the brown-hooded kingfishers over the woodland kingfishers. Yes, I do. I love them so much. And the Mawati is the perfect place to be. So in winter, they will feed on small geckos, maybe the small sand frogs. They'll completely adapt their diet to survive during winter in comparison to the yummy feast of insects that they can have in the summer. Days like this are always a struggle to find animals. Overcast, windy, for some reason, we just do not like it. But Craig and I are going to finish our river cruise and see what else we can find.
Yeah. Just pulled into position with a little herd of elephant. We left Blondie in his slumber, and not far down the road, just managed to locate these ellies. Listen to that vocalization. It's like a deep bass drum from the depths. That rumbling created in their nasal passages. Some people think it's their stomachs. You do hear their stomachs rumbling, but that deep grumbling we just heard actually in the nasal passage. One of the few communications we can actually hear. Most of their communication is subsonic. And below the frequency that our human ears can pick up. And I agree with you, Andrea, what we can hear, that deep rumbling is a special sound. It may just rival the lion's roar. Rebecca, you've asked how big can elephants grow? Well, the biggest bulls came weighing in at around 5 metric tons. Even a bit more. I've read accounts of them closer to 6 metric tons. Obviously difficult to get an elephant to stand on a scale, but around that, which in pounds, well over 10,000 pounds, 12,000 pounds, which is quite incredible. Our largest land mammal, and to sustain that weight, you often always find them eating. You have to keep eating to maintain that body mass. It's a big body to support. And being herbivores, they have to eat large amounts to derive the nutrition that they require. Lots and lots of salad. Perhaps I can pull forward just a hair so that we can actually get a look at this bull. He's hiding behind the bush. doesn't want to be on camera today. There he is. Munching away at that dry grass. Doesn't look extremely tasty, does it, eating dry grass, but there's obviously still nutrition in it, or you wouldn't be eating it. Although this time of year you will often see them going for leaves that are still green, or pushing over trees and devouring the roots that hold so much of the tree's nutrition during the dry season. You may wonder why he's not eating that very green bush right in front of him. That's a quarry. Magic quarry. Quarry divinorum. Its tales tell that people have always used it to divine water. And it is an evergreen. It's green year round, but it isn't very tasty. I don't think it's extremely nutritious. It has a high level of tannin, which doesn't make it taste very nice. So I have seen elephants nibbling at it before, but it doesn't appear to be one of their favorites, so that's why he's still going for the dry grass, even though he's got that green bush in front of him. I'm going to ease forward a little bit more again, because he keeps positioning himself right behind that bush. One step forward, two steps back. There he is, giving us a nice last little.
Yes, I can really kick myself. We had a lock on a goshawk. Remember, we were looking for this nest, and it was out in this area over here. And then I got so distracted by this amazing Sengi sighting that I lost the goshawk. Anyway, it's not all bad. At least we know. You see, the thing is, you want to try and find these birds. Because sometimes they don't necessarily be sitting on the nest itself. But, you know, once they do have a nest, they'll always be roosting very, very close by to it, or on it if there are eggs or chicks there. So if you can get these birds early in the morning like we did now, then at least you're kind of like narrowing your search area. So I'm happy, I am satisfied that we are getting to that point where we're closing in on them, but it's still a way to go. So I think I'll do the same thing tomorrow morning if you're all keen for it, because this is like really exciting. We start building onto the meerkats, the shell ducks, the doves, the African wildcats, the goshawks, those kind of things. Oh, Jetpack has asked a great question there. How do you tell the genders of goshawks? Visually like this, I would never be able to tell the difference, not even close. Your females and your raptors do tend to be slightly larger than your males, and one of the things about that is that they're often doing the nest defense. Not that the males don't, but the females get super aggro around the nesting sites. But again, you know, that on that kind of size difference thing, you'd have to say, okay, well, you need two of them sitting together to be able to give you some indication. And our colleagues, where they're working, pretty much all of those reserves down there, you know, Djuma, Ngala, Pinda, all those places, Lions, you know, what do you call Pridelands, those things. They've got what we call a dark chanting goshawk. This is a pale chanting goshawk. And they get the name, they've got a beautiful call, they go. So that's also what we're listening out for, because I'll do that around the nest site as well. So, but we'll get them. We just need to be patient.
The dead tree. So we've actually just come along the river, and we're in quite a nice spot where we can look down on it. And so an area where there used to be water is just behind us, and we've got quite a unique view of some zebra and impala. So we can see them from the distance on the opposite side over there, and it's quite nice to see that. And what's quite unique about this view of these zebras, if you consider the habitat that we're in, we're in quite a dense, thick environment around this riverine vegetation, which doesn't necessarily suit zebra. And I think what might have encouraged them to come out into these dense areas is the wind. And we've been talking about the wind from early on this morning, how it affects these animal senses, especially their sense of smell and hearing. And so as a result, they might have just come into an area where the trees help break the wind and just slow it down a bit. And so they might be there, they're in sort of a clearing around some very dense vegetation, so it might just be slightly more protected there, which gives them the ability to smell and hear slightly better. It's quite a unique view. I mean, from this distance we don't often see zebras so close to the river. Yeah, Katie, I agree with you. I think they do. And I mean, the way that they camouflage themselves is quite unique, because I mean, black and white in an area that's goldens and greens doesn't seem like they would camouflage so nicely. But they've just, I don't know, they just blend in so well. I mean, even those impalas from this distance seem to blend in very, very well. And that's more because of the color in the background. But I think that zebra's patterning just helps break the outline of the whole entire body, especially when it's standing behind some sticks, and those sticks almost look like the vertical stripes of the zebra. See, that one's actually got a youngster. I wonder if it might be the same herd. It's not too far away from the herd that we saw this morning. You just see the ears sticking above the mum's back and the tail below the stomach. And having two different species that might complement one another with the senses also helps in this condition. So if an impala alarm calls, it alerts the zebra, and vice versa. So I think they're looking nice and safe and cozy with not too much threatening them. So Owen and I are going to continue along the river and see if we can find anything else.
So we've just got a visual on one of the goshawks, and it's just flown off again. In fact, not one, two of them. So we are on the money now. Okay, so what they do is they'll sit on, perch on these trees, and they fly low level through the bushes. There's one going, I see the mountains where that big valley is, David? Say when you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, there we go. So that's one of the goshawks there now, and the catch now is to try see where they've got this nest. It is incredibly difficult, because going all the way out to the left hand side now and going lower, 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 lower. Jeez. But what this means is now we're going to be able to work this area over the coming weeks, because you know it may be that they've built the nest, but they haven't actually got eggs in it, so they may not be incubating yet. But the only way we're going to find this out is actually spending time in this area, very, very close to where the meerkats are. So this pair is going to be a very real threat to those meerkats. And yeah, this is so exciting. At least we've narrowed it down. So yes, I'm over the moon now. This is exactly what I was hoping for this morning. Good, good. Well, I don't know what all of your plans are today, but whatever they are, I hope you're going to have a wonderfully relaxing day. And yeah, just if you can join us again this afternoon. I don't know what I've got planned, but I'm sure between us and our colleagues we'll have something good for you. Stay safe, stay warm, have good time with family and friends, and we can't wait to see you this afternoon.